1 minute. 1 minute, just a second. And then let me go to the Facebook or YouTube live or YouTube. One minute, we will start. Okay. Shall we start? Okay, the meeting is called to order. Silent prayer. Okay, thank you. Now flag salutation by Dr. Pavan Madhusudanan, Secretary, IMA, THRISSUR.
Flag salutation. We, the members of Indian Medical Association, stand before you to salute our national flag. Its honor and glory shall be our light and strength, and its course shall be our course. We pledge our allegiance to it, and realizing our responsibilities as the accredited members of this national organization, we swear we will dedicate everything in our power to see it fly high in the Committee of Nations. Jai Hind.
Thank you. Now welcome address by Dr. J.S. NITIN, immediate past President, IMA, THRISSUR, and President, Indian Society of Anesthesiologists, THRISSUR City Branch. Over to you, Dr. NITIN.
Am I audible? Hello?
You are audible.
Yes, doctor. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Respected President of IMA THRISSUR, Dr. Joy Manjula, sir. Today's guest of honor, Dr. NITIN SHAH, who is a pediatric hemato-oncologist from Mumbai. The moderator of today's session, Dr. Binu Arikul, who is the additional professor of community medicine at the Government Medical College. Joint Secretary of IMA Kerala State Branch, Dr. Jain Chimman. Dr. Pavan, Secretary, IMA THRISSUR. Dr. Arun Krishna, Secretary, Indian Society of Anesthesiologists, THRISSUR Branch.
You're muted, sir. You are muted.
Muted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Somebody else, I think somebody else muted me. Okay.
Me only. You have written another name, you know.
No. Nivin, it's my name. Nivin.
Okay, that I know. Your phone number I showed. That's why.
No, that's not mine.
Okay.
I have checked it in my desktop. Okay, we'll continue.
Okay.
Sorry, IMA CGP convener, Dr. Sharmila, honorable senior members of the profession, respected faculty members, my dear colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a very happy occasion that the Indian Society of Anesthesiologists are joining hands with our parent organization, the Indian Medical Association, to conduct a topic which is of great importance in today's scenario, an update on vaccines, especially the corona era. See, the vaccines have become, superstar as well as the public is concerned, because it has started raising questions not only among the medical fraternity, but also in the social media. A very valid question which I've been seeing through these last 1 or 2 weeks is regarding the abstinence of alcohol for 42 days if vaccine is being used. So everybody has been keeping on asking this question for quite some time. So moreover, now today, all of us would like to know about vaccines. And a lot of people, a lot of questions, how it is to be administered, how it is to be preserved, how it will be carried, whether it is a cold chain or things like that. And we have the best man to speak on today's topic, Dr. NITIN SHAH. I think he has done an exemplary work on vaccines. He has edited a book on vaccines, and his clinical experience would really be a milestone in today's talk. And on behalf of both Indian Medical Association and the Indian Society of Anesthesiologists, Dr. NITIN SHAH, at least on this Zoom meeting, welcome to THRISSUR.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I would like to welcome the moderator of today's talk, Dr. Binu Arikal, who was the additional professor of community medicine at the Government Medical College, THRISSUR. Welcome, sir. Welcome to this meeting. Now, see, the Indian Society of Anesthesiologists, THRISSUR branch has always been in the forefront of conducting lots and lots of academic activities over the last decade. We have conducted lots of, clinical meetings and conferences, mainly based on anesthesiology. But we are always happy to join hands with IMA and conduct more and more topics of public importance. So on behalf of everybody gathered here, we welcome the speaker, the moderator, and in one word, let me welcome all of you to today's meeting. And on behalf of the Indian Society of Anesthesiologists, I wish all of you a very Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. NITIN. Now, presidential address. Respected Joint Secretary Dr. Jain Chimman, immediate past president and president of ISA Thrissur City Branch Dr. Jayas Nivin, Secretary Dr. Pawan, IMA CGP Thrissur convener Dr. Sharmila PM, ISA Thrissur City Branch Secretary Dr. Arun Krishna, today's speakers and chief guest Dr. NITIN SHAH, who is written, about whom Dr. NITIN has elaborately said, and today's moderator Dr. Binu Arikal, who is the additional professor, community medicine, Government Medical College, Thrissur, and my dear friends, colleagues, and other senior members from our branch, other branches. I welcome you all in this CME on an update on COVID vaccines. We are expecting a lot of anxious things from our today's speaker, Dr. NITIN SHAH, about vaccines are being made by, messenger RNA, activated vaccine, killed vaccine, many types. So to get, and today we also heard about the mutation of the virus in UK. So how the vaccine is going to be effective in such cases. All these queries, we are anxiously waiting to have an answer from you, sir. Now, I welcome you all. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year also. So, for the information of Dr. NITIN SHAH, our branch has won the best branch award from the Kerala state of the Dr. S.S. Rao Shield for the best state branch, local branch of the state. That's for your information. And our secretary, Dr. Pawan, has been selected as the best secretary of the state, branch secretary. And of course, myself as the best adjudged president of a local branch by the National IMA. And our today is being conducted by the IMA CGP. Our CGP section has won the second prize, stood second in the Kerala State branch, and IMS stood second in the Kerala State branch. And our women doctors will also stood third in the list. So that's a lot of awards we received in this. So that is for the speakers' information we are telling. All others are known to it. So I stop my presidential address and I invite Dr. Jain Chimman, State Joint Secretary, who is also from our branch. He has also won the President's Appreciation Award from the National IMA. I welcome him for his address. Over to you, Dr. Jain Chimman.
Hope I am audible. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Dr. Joy and ISA, THRISSUR City chapter for conducting a very relevant discussion today. And you have got the best man possible to talk to us on vaccines. And vaccine, as already mentioned, is the hot topic today. And you have got the best person available, and you have got a very good moderator whom I'm sure will be able to manage the session very efficiently. So I'm not standing in between. Let me take this opportunity to congratulate both ISA and also THRISSUR branch of IMA for conducting such relevant activities. It is indeed a pleasure that ISA is joining hands with IMA. Definitely, ISA office bearers are very active IMA members. So the president was the IPP of Indian Medical Association, the THRISSUR branch. So it is no wonder that ISA and IMA are joining hands for coming out with such wonderful program. I know both ISA and also THRISSUR branch had conducted even international CMEs coming in this during the COVID time. And as a series, this is the best possible CME we could have in this time. So wish all success, wish all participants that wish it will be a very useful session for all of us. Wishing all success for today's CME. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Dr. Jain Chimay. Now I invite Dr. Sharmila PM, IMA CGP convener, for the introduction of the faculties. Over to you, Dr. Sharmila.
Thank you, Joy, sir. Am I audible, sir?
Audible.
Good evening, doctors. Today, I would like to welcome you all to this meeting of CGP on behalf of CGP. And we have decided on a topic which is the need of the hour, an update on COVID vaccines. Actually, today we have been blessed to have with us a very eminent speaker, Dr. NITIN SHAH. About Dr. NITIN SHAH. Dr. NITIN SHAH is the section head of pediatrics, PD Hinduja Hospital. Sir is the honorary pediatric hematologist oncologist, BJ Wadia Hospital. He is the visiting pediatric hematologist oncologist, Apollo Hospital. And he has held many important posts, including the chairperson, IAP PHO chapter 2015.
Hello? Dr. Sharmila?
Yes, sir?
Repeat, echo is coming.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I think it's at your level, Dr. Joy, because we are able to hear her very clearly.
Okay.
And sir is the president of IAP 2006, chairperson IAP PHO chapter 2015-2016, editor-in-chief IAP Specialty Series Books, editor IAP Specialty Series Books on Pediatric Hematology, editor of IAP textbook on vaccines, editor textbook of pediatric hematology, and editor of textbook on fetal and neonatal hematology oncology. So many important credits to his name. We are blessed to have you, sir. Today we have with us, we are lucky to have Dr. Binu Erikel, MD Community Medicine, as the moderator of our day, of this day. And Dr. Binu is currently working as additional professor in the Department of Community Medicine, Government Medical College, THRISSUR. He is the coordinator of the Regional Prevention of Epidemic and Infectious Diseases Cell and the member State Resource Group on Infectious Diseases, Kerala. Doctor is a member of the Board of Studies, Kerala, University of Health Sciences, and he has had more than 30 international research publications. We are blessed to have both Dr. NITIN SHAH and Dr. Binu Erikel today here. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Over to you, Dr. NITIN SHAH.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, first of all, let me thank the organizers, especially Dr. Joy, for inviting me to share some of my thoughts on the COVID vaccine. This topic on COVID vaccine is so dynamic that every time I speak, I have to make some new slides. And as very rightly pointed out by Dr. Joy, that we have the problem of UK and now a lot of part of Europe having a mutated virus. So again, I had to tweak some of my slides. The second thing is, I assure you that I'm not going to speak on whether you should take alcohol or not alcohol before or after vaccine, because that's completely left to one person. And I wish that people who are drinking heavily, they keep on taking vaccine every 40 days. So maybe in next few months, they will forget the alcohol. So that's the positive side effect of having vaccine, where you don't have to drink the alcohol for the next 3, 4 or 6 weeks. So with that preamble, and congratulating all the office bearers of IMA THRISSUR and other branches which have joined hands for the accolades that you won this year, in spite of having such tough time of having social distancing and not able to meet physically. But let me tell you one thing, that both for the speakers and for the participants, the Zoom meetings or any web-based meetings have become a blessing, because you don't spend time in travel, stay, accommodation, don't waste money. You can listen to whom you want to listen, and you can enjoy it from your cozy atmosphere at home. So I think the participation in all the webinars has generally become more than 2 or 3 times than when it was physically. So all you miss is shaking hands and having a cup of tea together. But I think if you leave that, then there are a lot of positives about this having webinars. So let me start sharing my screen and start the topic for today. And I'm going to speak on the COVID vaccines. And at the end of the talk, if there are any questions, then we can take this question along with Dr. Aitel. So this presentation is dedicated to all those colleagues in medical field and also in other frontline workers who actually died because of COVID-19 and sacrificed their life serving the humanity before the vaccines could come to their rescue. And the vaccines have already come and are being licensed and used in several countries. I'm sure 1 or 2 of these vaccines will also be licensed in India very soon. And I so much wish that these colleagues who fought so bravely this disease had somehow survived till today, and maybe we would have been able to give them vaccine and save their lives, so that not only they would have been saved from such a dreaded disease, but they would have continued to serve the humanity. So that's also a word of caution for all of you who are joined here and those who are going to be influenced by you, that vaccines save lives and vaccination saves life. So merely having vaccine alone is not enough. If it just remains in your refrigerator and if you don't use it, it's not going to be helpful. So both vaccines are required, and we have to be convinced about vaccinating people, and people have to be convinced about vaccinating themselves. Then only the vaccine will reach the ones who need it, and probably we will be able to save lives. So a fervent appeal: do not believe in anti-vaccine lobby. Do not believe in media reports which are sometimes not authenticated, or they are just a knee-jerk response on something which is blown up. And don't get carried away by that and not offer this vaccine to yourself, your family members, or to your patient. Vaccines are safe, as I'll show you. And unless something grossly happens, which of course everyone will come to know, have complete faith in vaccine. We have eradicated polio by vaccination. We have eradicated smallpox by vaccination. We have eliminated measles by vaccination. And all these are mass vaccination program. So also we are going to win our war against COVID-19 by having mass vaccination. So these are the number of vaccines which are in pipeline. More than 200, in fact, are in preclinical stage. Preclinical is the animal studies. Once that is found to be safe, it enters into a very small phase 1 study where around 20, 40, 50 adults are given the vaccine, essentially to see for immediate safety and safety in the first few weeks. And also they look at the antibody titers to see that the vaccine is immunogenic in humans. And after the phase 1 is successful, the license is given for phase 2 and phase 3 trial. For COVID vaccine, most of the vaccines have phase 2, phase 3 combined data. What does phase 2 mean? It is expanded safety and also lot-to-lot variation in the vaccine that you are making. So you tweak your dose, number, schedule, etc. And once you are successful phase 2, you are given license for phase 3, which is essentially a large study involving a lot of subjects in the community, where you give so that you have more safety data available, a better immunogenicity data available, a long-term data because you follow up this subject. And many of these vaccines have built-in efficacy subset. So you also look at the efficacy of the vaccine, because it's one thing to produce antibody by a vaccine, and other thing those antibodies to protect against the disease. So large-scale field efficacy trials are done under phase 3. And once phase 3 is successful, normally a vaccine undergoes a rigorous review of the data and a license is given. But in COVID-19, as the time is against us in the race of fight against COVID, there is emergency use certification given for most of the vaccine. And you'll be surprised that not one but 8 different vaccines are already approved for either actual use or limited use in the world. And India will very soon have one of these vaccines also approved for use in our country. Which are these 8 vaccines? 2 of them are Russian, Sputnik 5 and Epivac Corona, which are licensed in Russia for use. Sputnik 5 is now taken over by Dr. Reddy Laboratory in India. They are doing a quick phase 2-3 trial. Once the data is out, we will have the Sputnik vaccine. I'll tell you what this vaccine is about. You already know about the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine and the Moderna vaccine, both being mRNA vaccine. Pfizer BioNTech vaccine is already licensed in 5 countries: US, Canada, Bahrain, and so on and so forth. And Moderna also got its emergency use certification in USA just 2 weeks back. There are 4 Chinese vaccines. CanSino, which is given license for use for Chinese military for 1 year. Sinovac is also licensed in China for use for general population. And Sinopharm has 2 vaccines, Beijing and Wuhan. Both of them are wholesale killed vaccine. And of this, the Wuhan Sinopharm vaccine is already licensed in UAE because they did a large scale phase 3 trial in UAE. So a lot of these vaccines are being used in the mass vaccination program world over. And we will discuss some of these vaccines in the next 35-40 minutes. Nucleus, where the nucleic material is there, and has a lot of protein surrounding it. There are envelope protein, there are membrane protein, nucleocapsid protein, etc., hemoglobin, etc. But the most important is this spike protein, one which is seen in a bugle shape like this. So this spike protein has a small area on the tip, what is known as a receptor binding domain, or RBD. And this RBD attaches to the host cell, that is human cell, respiratory epithelial cell, and other like pancreas and so on and so forth, through the ACE2 receptor. So the receptor binding domain on the virus attaches to the ACE2 receptor on the host cell, and the virus gets entry into the human epithelium, and then it replicates and leads to the disease, whether asymptomatic, symptomatic, mild, moderate, severe, and so on and so forth. Now, most of the commercial antibody kits do not test antibody against the spike antigen. They test antibody against the nucleocapsid protein. So if you are nucleocapsid protein positive, that means you are naturally infected by SARS with or without your knowledge in the past. And it doesn't mean that this is protective. What is protective is the anti-spike antibody. But in someone who has got natural infection, there will be antibodies against all this protein, including a spike protein. So you take this positive nucleocapsid antibody test as a surrogate of you also probably being immune. But if you really want to know whether you have good anti-spike antibody, then you should do a COVID antibody test, which is based on the spike antigen. And there are some labs in the country which have this anti-spike antibody based test, and they are the ones which actually tell you that you have the direct evidence that you have a protective antibody. Now, before I embark upon the vaccines, it is important for people to understand what is the T cell response. Now, when you have infection, your first line is a innate immunity. So your skin barrier, mucosal barrier, polymorph, monocyte, macrophages, cytokines, etc. come to in a non-specific way to block any infection. Now, after some time, this specific immunity comes into power, and there are 2 types, B cell and T cell. B cell is the one which produces antibody, initially IgM, and that will help you to control the infection. But the IgM is not the best antibody. You have to have a very powerful antibody in the form of IgG. And our B cell will produce IgG antibody under the guidance of a T cell. So you need both the B cell and the T cell to have a meaningful, long-term, good quality, good quantity, protective response in the form of a what you call combined B cell T cell response. And when the infection is under control, both the B cells and the T cells which have reacted, they don't die, they go into sleep, what you call memory cell. And these cells remain almost for your life, especially T memory cell. So whenever you have a second infection with the same organism, these memory cells get awakened and they immediately fire IgG antibody within 24 to 48 hours. That's how most of us don't get a second infection, especially when it comes to viral infections like COVID, measles, chickenpox, mumps, rubella, etc. So if a vaccine induces T cell response, it assures you of a very good quality short-term protection, and also assures you of an amnestic response should you get infection again, and protect you for almost lifelong. Now, by and large, second infection of COVID in those who have recovered are rare and anecdotal. Now, we are almost into 1 year of this COVID pandemic with more than 7 crore cases in the world. And if you have some anecdotal report of some people having got the second infection, it tells you that the rule is that you don't get second infection. And why you don't get second infection is because of this memory T cell. So it is important for all the COVID vaccine to show that they not only produce antibody which will protect you immediately and maybe for some time, but it will also induce good T cell response, which will probably help you to have a long-term antibody response and a long-term protection. So in patients who have recovered from COVID, we know 100% of them have developed CD4 positive and CD8 positive specific cells response to COVID-19. So if a natural infection can lead that, then we expect that the vaccine also will lead to a good T cell response. And in fact, the response is not only to in a natural infection, you can see it's across all the protein, M protein, N protein, nucleocapsid protein, spike protein, etc., etc. So it tells you that vaccine will also probably induce a very nice specific antibody response. Now, what are the vaccines? So you can have the entire virus killed and made into a vaccine. Like you used to have the wholesale killed typhoid vaccine in the past. TAB vaccine, I'm sure Dr. Joy would remember, he would have used it when he was a young pediatrician or a young person working in Mumbai. So our ICMR, along with the NIB Pune, has given one virus strain to Bharat Biotech, Indian company, to make a wholesale killed vaccine, and that is Covaxin, which is undergoing phase 2-3 trial, and probably will come, the data will come soon and we will know about that. The Sinovac vaccine, which is already licensed in China, is also wholesale killed vaccine. And the Sinopharm vaccine, which is licensed in UAE, also is a wholesale killed vaccine. Now, you can not kill the vaccine, but keep the virus alive, but attenuate enough so that it doesn't lead to any disease, but still maintains its immunogenicity, so it produces good antibody. The typical live viral vaccines are like MMR, chickenpox, and yellow fever vaccine. And Serum Institute of India, along with Codagenix, is trying to make one live attenuated COVID vaccine, which is still into early phase of trials. Now, you may not give entire virus, but give a part of the virus, which is really the antigen which you are interested into. In this case, it is a spike protein. So you can either directly inject that spike protein into the body as a nanoparticle. That is exactly what the Novavax vaccine is. Again, Serum Institute of India is working with Novavax to make this vaccine as a form of a nanoparticle. And another company, GSK Sanofi combined, also is trying to make a direct subunit vaccine giving the spike protein. Unfortunately, the early data from the GSK Sanofi vaccine has shown that the vaccine was not that immunogenic. So they'll have to increase the content of the antigen per dose to make it more immunogenic. And I'm sure that also may be a good vaccine to come. But the most important vaccines which have been licensed or are in use today are what are called either vector-borne or a nucleic acid vaccine. What is a vector-borne vaccine? Instead of injecting the spike protein directly, you actually include the genome of the spike protein into a vector. Vector is like a one which is going to carry this virus in your body. So the vectors that I use are either adenoviruses, which may be chimpanzee virus, which is the Oxford vaccine, or a human adenovirus, which is your Sputnik V Russian vaccine, or people are trying to use measles, a type of rabies vaccine, etc., which are all in the phase 1, phase 2 trial. The important one are the chimpanzee adenovirus vector-borne vaccine, Oxford vaccine, which is Serum Institute is going to make and is ready with 5 crore doses. And the second is the human recombinant adenovirus, the R85, R8026 dual vector vaccine made by Sputnik V in Russia, given to now Bharat Biotech to make vaccine. These are the two promising vaccines which probably India will have. And the third is that instead of injecting that spike protein RNA, the nucleic acid through a vector, you actually take the mRNA. What is an mRNA? mRNA is the last part of the nucleic acid which comes out into the cytoplasm of a cell, and with the help of ribosome, that ribosome is like a factory to produce protein. It produces that protein which is coded by that mRNA. So here they have taken the mRNA coding the spike protein, injected that mRNA directly as a nanoparticle. That mRNA enters the human cell in the cytoplasm, mind you, not in the nucleus. So it doesn't integrate into the DNA of human cells. So there is no real worry about it leading to any mutagenesis. But in the cytoplasm, it will now order these ribosomes to make the spike protein. And then the spike protein is exposed to the immune system. They'll make antibody. And that's how the vaccine works. For the first time ever for humankind, a human race, we are having an mRNA vaccine, which was a dream for the scientists for the last 2 decades, actually being used. And both the US-based vaccine are Moderna vaccine, which is the mRNA vaccine, and the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, which also is an mRNA vaccine. And lastly, Zydus is working on what you call a DNA vaccine, again in phase 1-2 trial. We don't know much about that vaccine. People are making nasal vaccine and so on and so forth. These are all the dreams of science. Maybe one of them may come true, but what comes today, which is actually useful, is some of these vaccines which are in already licensed in some part of the world. So if I will, from the previous slide, if I have to take the vaccine which are reality, is the Oxford vaccine, chimpanzee adenovirus, vector-borne, Serum Institute making. Advantage, our own company making. The Serum Institute is the largest vaccine manufacturer in the world, not only India, but entire world. So very promising. 5 crore doses ready, get licensing, and the vaccine will be rolled out in the country. The second is the wholesale killed vaccine, ICMR with NIV Pune, Bharat Biotech making our own first indigenous vaccine ever, and that is going under phase 2-3 trial. Third is a Sputnik vaccine, again a human adenovirus based vaccine, DRL, that is Dr. Reddy Laboratories is making. So these 3 are the Indian companies making the vaccine. And the fourth is Zydus, developed his own Zydovac DNA-based vaccine, which phase 1-2 trials are over. So these 4 vaccines are really going to be useful because they are made in India and they will be available at a very cheap rate and will probably help us because we are a populous country. There are Chinese vaccines which are already used in China and UAE, as I said, and these are the vaccines. They are all wholesale killed vaccine. And the 2 which are available in Europe and in the Western countries is the Moderna vaccine and the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. So these are the ones which are red. Oxford vaccine, Sputnik vaccine, the Chinese vaccine and the Moderna Pfizer vaccine are the ones which are already licensed, are used in some part of the world. This vaccine one by one, and you understand what the data is, and then you can take a choice as to what you want to do when these vaccines come, which one you want to take. The first vaccine to be licensed was Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine. Besides the Chinese vaccine, I'm not going to touch much of a Chinese vaccine because I don't know whether they'll come to India because we have 3 or 4 manufacturers in India making different vaccines. So this Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine is an mRNA vaccine coding for the spike protein and injected directly as a lipid nanoparticle intramuscularly. Animal studies in macaque monkeys showed that it protects the lung against disease. So we knew this vaccine is going to be very powerful. As you always do, a phase 1-2 trial was done in Germany and USA on small number of subjects, was found to be safe, immunogenic. It induced a very high antibody titer, which was even 2 to 3-fold higher than what you get in convalescent plasma, which means plasma of patients who have recovered from COVID. And it also induced T-cell response that I was talking about. So it was a very promising vaccine, given a license to carry out the phase 2-3 trial. So the phase 2-3 trial with this vaccine was a double-blind randomized saline placebo control trial done in children, people above the age of 16 years. Now, mind you, all these vaccines are licensed for people above the age of either 12 years or 16 years and not for children. For the first time, there are vaccines which are only or mainly for adults and not for children. Of course, children trials are undergoing now that the vaccine trials for adults are over.
Sorry, you are muted. Please unmute yourself. Sorry, you are muted. Please unmute yourself, Dr. Shah. Please unmute yourself.
Nitin sir, please unmute yourself, sir. You're not audible.
Please unmute.
I request the host, please, not to mute me, please.
Okay.
Whoever is the host, please don't mute me. Okay. So where did you lose my connection? This slide was audible or not audible?
Audible, audible.
No, this slide you
Audible.
could hear. You could hear this slide.
We could hear.
All right, so I will restart anyway. So the phase 2-3 combined double-blind randomized trial was done in about 16 years. And as I said, studies in children below the age of 16 years is undergoing for most of the vaccine, because the focus was the older population, because they are the ones who are having severe disease and dying. So the idea was to make a vaccine for them first. And that's the reason why, unlike where most of the vaccines come for children first, we are actually having vaccine for the adult first. So this study was done in 152 sites in USA, Brazil, South Africa, and Argentina. Both males and females were involved. But most important, almost 40% of the subjects involved were more than 55 years. That's where you need the vaccine. Almost 1/3 of them were obese. That's where you need the vaccine. And almost 20% had some comorbidity. That's the one where you need the vaccine the most. So very robust trial design. 2 doses given 21 days apart. Endpoint was safety, immune response, and efficacy. And a huge number, 37,000 plus subjects involved, is really massive exercise. First, safety. So you can see a lot of people who got the vaccine developed side effect as compared to placebo. But you can see here it was mainly mild or moderate, hardly any severe reaction. It was seen with both dose 1 and dose 2 almost the same. But you can see here the side effects were much more in young adult than in elderly population above 55 years, maybe because young people respond with the immune system very well as compared to older people where the immune system is already becoming senescent. And you know the side effects are because of the robust antibody response. Coming to this, the systemic side effect like fever, vomiting, malaise, headache, etc. was seen in around 10 to 20% of the subjects. Again, most of them were mild to moderate, so really no red flag sign. Now, most important is the serious side effect. So first of all, the related adverse effect were definitely seen more with the vaccine than compared to placebo, obviously because the vaccine will lead to antibody response. Lymphadenopathy was one major this adverse effect related to vaccine seen in 0.3% of vaccine versus 0.1% in the placebo, but these were fortunately mild and self-limiting lymphadenopathy. There were 4 serious adverse effects: shoulder injury, lymphadenopathy, proximal ventricular arrhythmia, and right leg paresthesia, which were probably related to the vaccine, but all of them responded without any intervention. There were 2 deaths in vaccine and 4 in placebo, all unrelated. So no red flag sign as far as side effect leading to death is concerned. There were 2 cases of anaphylaxis in people who had past history of severe anaphylaxis, so much so that they had to actually carry adrenaline pen, the epinephrine pen or EpiPen with them, and they did develop anaphylaxis with this vaccine too, and they were to be resuscitated with the epinephrine. There was 1 subsequent case of anaphylaxis following vaccine in a medico without prior allergy, so that's a red flag that people with prior anaphylaxis should not take this vaccine. Number 2, anyone who is giving this vaccine should be prepared to resuscitate should a serious adverse effect happen like anaphylaxis. And that is true not only for this vaccine, for all vaccines that you use, because all vaccines, hepatitis B, hep, polio, you name it, can lead to anaphylaxis once in a lifetime, and you can be in trouble if you don't have measures of resuscitation. So there should be a crash cart handy in your clinic so that you can resuscitate these patients. There were cases of Bell's palsy in UK following vaccination, but mind you, UK purchased 10 million doses and they've already used, I think, something like 1 million. So obviously there'll be some baseline disease which otherwise also will happen in the vaccinee. So when they compared the Bell's palsy incidence in vaccinee versus the background rate in the general population, they were matching. So Bell's palsy was exonerated as a side effect of the vaccine. Overall, a very safe vaccine. What was the efficacy? Efficacy was a huge cohort with 2 months follow-up. So no matter which way you look at, per protocol, which means starting from 15 days after the second dose, if you look at the COVID cases, there were 8 cases in vaccine versus 162 in placebo, giving a vaccine efficacy of 95% with a very tight confidence intervals of 90 to 97. If you take people who had COVID in past in the form of serology and you look at the vaccine efficacy, it was still 9 versus 169 cases. Again, very similar, 95%. And the vaccine efficacy was same as in general population, as also in all age group, including older children or older people, obese patient, patient with comorbidity, and patient with hypertension. So which means this vaccine work across all strata of subject which were enrolled. Just the same right from 2 weeks after the first dose onwards. So that's an advantage that you may be protected very early when you take this vaccine. The problem is minus 80-degree storage. Now, in country like ours, where there is a problem of keeping a refrigerator, we are all used to 2 to 8 degree with great difficulty. So keeping it minus 80 degree is not possible. That's why this vaccine, when it comes to India, there'll be a tough challenge for the company and for us also as to how will we ascertain that there is no break in the cold chain, because if there's a break in the cold chain, the vaccine will not work. So that's as far as the most widely used vaccine, that is Pfizer vaccine, which is licensed in not 1 but 5 countries. The second vaccine, which is very important from Indian point of view, is this what you call ChAdOx, or that is the chimpanzee adenovirus vector-borne vaccine made by Oxford Vaccine UK. We then tied up for commercial manufacturing with AstraZeneca for the international market, and with Serum Institute of India for the India and developing country market. So this is a chimpanzee adenovirus vector which expresses the full length of spike protein. It's a replication deficient virus, which means it's a live virus, but when the virus enters human cell and infects it, it cannot replicate because it cannot assemble into a full virus, because that particular gene that is required to assemble the virus is removed from this vector. So it is only going to lead to one-time infection and not repeated infection. So it is safe even if from that point of view. The data done in macaque monkeys showed that it prevented severe pneumonia, but it did not prevent infection. So it was important to understand how these vaccines work against severity of the COVID infection. So these vaccines have undergone several trials. So there was a phase 1-2 trial in UK. Then there was extended phase 2-3 trial in UK, including now more than 55-year-old people. There was a phase 3 efficacy trial in Brazil. One trial is undergoing in South Africa, where they included HIV positive patients. One trial in Kenya and one trial in India. An India trial is a phase 2-3 combined in 17 sites. The phase 1-2 trial, which was done in 18 to 59-year-old people in UK in 1,000 subjects, showed with 2 doses given 28 days apart, it induces a very good strong anti-spike antibody response in almost 90 to 100% of subjects. And these were neutralizing antibodies. So they were not non-specific, they were very specific antibodies. There was a strong correlation between the neutralizing antibody and the IgG. So you don't have to really test for neutralizing antibody. Also underwent a licensing for phase 2-3 combined trial. So in the phase 2 trial, which included adults above the age of 60 years and even above 70 years, the vaccine was found to be very safe in all the age group. And again, you can see older the age, lesser are the side effect. And the vaccine was equally immunogenic, whether it was young people between 18 to 55 years, older people between 56 to 70 years, or those above 70. You can see the titers are almost comparable between these 3 subgroups. So safe vaccine at all age group and immunogenic. So it went phase 2-3 combined efficacy trial. These interim results have been published very recently on 8th of December. And it is a combined analysis of the phase 1-2 UK trial, phase 2-3 UK trial, phase 3 Brazil trial, and phase 1-2 South Africa trial. It included older adults, subject with comorbidities, that's what we are interested in, like the Pfizer's vaccine, safety data. It had an efficacy on 2 different cohorts. Now, what happened was one of the manufacturing side made a vaccine dose almost half of the standard dose. So that is known as low dose or LD. So that group of 1,000 people actually got a low dose for the first dose by the time the mistake was realized, and then they received the standard dose for the second dose. And most of the cohort in the other countries actually received first dose also as full dose and second dose also as full dose. So they call it as serendipity, that an error which crept in, which actually helped the vaccine trial, because we know the low dose and standard dose had a better efficacy than the full dose. I'll come to that a little later. So there is a subgroup of people who received half dose following by full dose, and a lot of people who received full dose followed by full dose. Now, 23,000 subjects have been studied for 3.4 months follow-up since first dose and 2 months in second dose to look at the side effect profile and the efficacy profile. So there were no serious side effect except one hemolytic anemia in control arm. So vaccine can't be blamed. One transverse myelitis in vaccine arm, but then there were 2 more cases, one in vaccine arm and one in control arm. So this is probably the background rate of transverse myelitis and no red flag sign. And one patient had a very high fever which responded to paracetamol. So really no major side effect with the vaccine as far as serious side effect is concerned. And coming to the estimates of the efficacy, 2 weeks after the second dose with a median follow-up of 3.5 months, the vaccine efficacy overall was 70%. In those who received low dose followed by high dose was 90%, and those who received high dose followed by high dose was 60%. But this is against all severity COVID. If you look at the people who developed COVID in the vaccine arm, none of them got hospitalized, so none of them were severe. So the efficacy against hospitalization or severe COVID is 100%, whether you take low dose followed by full dose or you take full dose followed by full dose. The advantage of this vaccine that besides having high efficacy, the storage is all throughout 2 to 8 degree. So one, it is made in India by Serum Institute. 2, the manufacturer is ready with 5 crore doses. 3, the storage is 2 to 8 degree, which we are used to for all our childhood vaccination program, makes this vaccine a very important vaccine from Indian point of view, because that's the vaccine that we can look forward to, which is safe and efficacious and also is very easy to store and disseminate all over the country. The third is the mRNA vaccine from Moderna, which is the same as mRNA vaccine from Pfizer, encoding this S protein given as a lipid nanoparticle intramuscularly. Phase 1 trial done in 120 subjects above the age of 18 years. It showed a very high neutralizing antibody titer, again like Pfizer's vaccine, 2 to 4 higher than what you see in patients who have recovered the convalescent plasma. Again, like the Pfizer vaccine, it showed a good T-cell response. And the general vaccine safety was fine because there were mild to moderate side effects, especially fever and fatigue, but nothing really serious. And that is the reason why this vaccine underwent a phase 3 trial. Now, the phase 3 trial is not available for us to really go into details, but it shows that the phase 3 trial is done on 30,000 subjects at 87 sites in USA, funded heavily by BARDA, which is the US funding agency. I think they've given $1 billion to Moderna to make the vaccine. 2 doses, 28 days apart, and the primary endpoint was safety and efficacy. And what the reported efficacy in the news item is 94.5%, which is very similar to what you saw with the Pfizer's vaccine. But the problem is the same. It needs minus 20 degree storage. Better than Pfizer's from the point of view of storage, it can be kept at 2 to 8 degree for 30 days. But till it reaches the country and distributed to the depots, it has to be kept at minus 20 degree and below. Now, again, that's going to be trouble because we are going to have trouble in bringing this vaccine with such a stringent storage problem. Now, I also want to tell you about these 2 mRNA vaccines, which they look so promising, and everyone gets carried by the 95% versus 70%, 80% with the Serum Institute Oxford vaccine, that these 2 vaccines have not undergone any Indian trial. And as I understand, there is never a waiver given for any new vaccine. They have to conduct a small phase 2-3 combined data in our country. So if Moderna or Pfizer are asked to do the trial, they will be so busy selling this vaccine in the Western country where their country is queuing up for getting the vaccine, that they will not be interested in wasting their energy, time and money in doing the trial in India. So I have a feeling, I mean, I may be wrong, but I have a feeling that this vaccine will take several months to a year before they will actually even come to India. And even when they come to India, we will have to be extremely careful about the storage requirement. The Sputnik vaccine is like our Serum Institute Oxford vaccine, which is chimpanzee adenovirus. This is modified human adenovirus vector-based vaccine. So basically the same concept that an adenovirus takes the spike protein nucleic material and you inject that in a human cell, and the human cell makes the antigen, and then the immune system will make the antibody. So there are three viruses which are adenovirus which lead to common cold, you know that, but this is not the same as a common cold. This is a recombinant modified human vaccine adenovirus. So it's not going to be in trouble that you may have some preform antibody. That's why this vaccine will not work. And I'll come to that a little later. Second, this vector vaccine was also used in Ebola and HIV vaccine in past. So there's a rich experience of using this. It's not a new vector which we are using. First phase 1-2 trial was done in Russia with a very small number, 76 subjects, was found to be safe and immunogenic. As you can see here, safety was mild, pain, fever, etc. 100% of the vaccinees developed antibody to the spike protein. The titers were very high, and there were also a cell-mediated immunity, which is T-cell response seen on day 28. So this vaccine then underwent a phase 3 trial with 40,000 subjects in 45 medical centers in Russia. It also has been licensed now to Dr. Reddy's laboratory to make the vaccine in India. And Dr. Reddy laboratory is having a quick phase 2-3 trials in India. Now, none of these trials have been published for our review, but what has been shown in the news item, and if you go to the Sputnik vaccine website, then you can see this table and the data that I'm showing you, that a phase 3 trial done in 22,000 subjects, vaccine efficacy tested at 3 different endpoints. When there occurred total 20 cases, then 39 cases, and then 78 cases, it showed the efficacy at 0.1 with 20 cases, 92% efficacy, 0.2 when 39 cases happened in both vaccine and placebo arm. The efficacy was 91.4%, and at the end of the trial, 78 cases happened in the combined cohort with an efficacy of 91.4%. So you can see here that there were 0.09% cases in the vaccine versus 1.09% in the placebo, giving a combined efficacy of 91%, which is same as what you are seeing around 90-95% with most of the vaccine. Again, the vaccine had 100% efficacy against severe cases, which means the 16 cases that happened in vaccinee were mild, did not need hospitalization, or none of them died. So issues before this vaccine came to India were whether a pre-existing immunity against human adenovirus will kill the virus. The answer is no. More than 250 clinical trials in past using such type of vector has been successful. So I am very confident that this vaccine, if it found to be useful in India with phase 2-3 trial, will be again a second Indian vaccine beside the Oxford vaccine, which will help us because again, it's an Indian vaccine, high efficacy, and the storage is 2 to 8 degrees, same as the Oxford vaccine. So these are the two vaccines on which we will probably put our bet to help us resolve the crisis. Just a word about the Sinopharm BBIB Chinese vaccine, which is a wholesale killed vaccine, because this is licensed in UAE. And again, the data is not available, but the UAE health minister is on the record to say that the efficacy in UAE was 90, the seroconversion was in 99%, and the efficacy against any COVID disease was 86%, and against moderate to severe disease was 100%. Based on this vaccine is licensed. I'm sure you have friends in UAE. They will all send their pictures of them taking the first dose of the vaccine in the last 2 weeks. The Covaxin, which is the third vaccine, which is going to be made by Indian manufacturer Bharat Biotech, is a wholesale killed vaccine along with the NIV Pune and ICMR. This is a truly first indigenous vaccine made. They are adding aluminum hydroxide and what we call the toll-like receptor 7-8 combined as an agonist. So this is a combined vaccine with the vaccine antigen and this being used as an adjuvant to make the vaccine more powerful. Now they have done a study in 375 subjects, 18 to 55-year-old, 100 each were given one of the three vaccine batches, and 75 were control arm, which were given only the adjuvant. And they studied the baseline, and after the 2 doses were given 15 days apart. So after 2 doses, the 14 days, that is on 28 days, they did the immune response. And what they found is, again, a very busy table, but just forget about this table. Suffice to say that the vaccine was found to be very safe. There was hardly any side effect. I mean, there was some fever, pain, etc. But generally, no serious side effect was seen. Look at the control arm seroconversion, 8%. That was the force of transmission when this vaccine trial was being undertaken in India for this vaccine. Now, this is the immune response which is available from phase 1-2 trial, which shows that anti-spike protein, anti-specific receptor binding domain of the spike protein, and the anti-nuclear protein antibodies, all the 3 different antibodies, and an IgG 1:4 ratio, which tells you that if it's more than 1, it tells you there's a Th1 response, which is very good. All 4 antibody, no way which way you look at. You can see here before vaccine, after vaccine. There's a jump in the antibody titer for all these 4 antibodies. The same way you look at the neutralizing antibody against all those. Again, you see before vaccination you are here, after vaccination you are here, and that's true for all the 4 antibodies. So overall, an extremely immunogenic vaccine, and it also induces T-cell response with the vaccine by day 14 to day 28. So very immunogenic vaccine, but there is no efficacy data. I'm sure the phase 2-3 trial, which is undergoing, which has recently started, they are actually pleading people to join this vaccine trial. I'm sure all of you would have seen in WhatsApp group that a notice saying that, do you want to be volunteer for this vaccine? So that's the vaccine that we are developing. That's the 3rd vaccine which will come from an Indian manufacturer. And lastly, just to complete, Zydus is making Zy-COVID-D. They are doing 1,000 healthy volunteers phase 1-2 trial. We don't have data, so I can't tell you, but we will really wait for this data. Then you have this Serum Institute along with Novavax making a very unique direct subunit infusion of the in the form of nanoparticle of the spike protein without taking a vector. And they have done a quick study in 130 subjects, and they found that the antibody titers are 8-fold higher, and neutralizing antibody titer 4-fold higher than the convalescent plasma. Very promising. Phase 2B trial in South Africa and a phase 3 trial in UK and USA is going on. If this vaccine is found to be useful, it will be another vaccine from Serum Institute which will be very useful. Now, Novavax trial by Serum is starting in India very soon. So if some of you want to be volunteer and take the vaccine, go ahead, contact them, and probably they will help you to find out which are the sites where these vaccine trial subjects are being enrolled. And there are other vaccines. The Sanofi GSK said has had little setback, but I'm sure they'll bounce back. A measles vector-based borne vaccine by MSD. There are nasal vaccine, oral vaccine, and so on and so forth. These look very fancy, but some of them may see the day of light. We will wait for them. But till the time, we have 6 promising vaccines, which I'm sure one of them will be licensed very soon in India. Now, this is what Dr. Joa was referring to. This is the BMJ news, which has come recently, which says that the virus is mutated and is leading to havoc in UK because of not severity, but a force of transmission. So it's quickly transmitted. The disease is not severe. And that is also brought to the question, well, the vaccines, existing vaccines work with this mutated virus. And this BMJ article very clearly says the new variant has mutation to the spike protein that the 3 leading vaccines are targeting. However, vaccines produce antibodies against many regions in the spike protein. So it's unlikely that a single change would make the vaccine less effective. Very reassuring statement. We will know only in the coming 6 months whether 1, people are getting second infection with this mutated virus, which means their natural antibody did not protect. 2, whether those who have taken vaccine and they have been protected, are they getting infected with this mutated virus? Time will prove. And I really pray to the Almighty that this doesn't happen, and let the vaccines work and let the mankind survive this onslaught, this dreaded virus. There are unanswered questions. What if the vaccine do not work? This question is answered. Vaccines are working. What if the virus mutates? Yes, it has mutated, but there is no evidence to say it will escape the antibody produced either naturally or by the vaccine. What if the vaccines induce antibody which lead to a serious disease? There is no evidence from combined data on more than 30,000 subjects on each of these vaccine phase 3 trial that any of them have had vaccine-induced severe disease. What if the COVID disappears? It is unlikely to disappear for the next 2 to 3 years. It is under control because we are doing social distancing, not having parties, not going to movie, theater, marriage, etc., not traveling, etc. I must have taken 2,000 flights in my life, but I have not taken a single flight in the last 1 year. So if we start doing all that, the COVID will bounce back. So we need the vaccine. What if the COVID-19 become milder? Yes, it should become milder like most of the viral infection happen under the pressure of the natural immunity and vaccine immunity. That will be good for the community. The next 3 questions are important. Who will receive the vaccine first? I think the frontline healthcare worker, then the people who are above the age of 50 with comorbidity, elderly population, and then the general population. And the last will be children when the trial in children are found to be as good and as effective. How will the poor nation give it, and how will they bear the cost? And I think this is an important question. It is in the interest of the rich nations that they give a lion's share of the vaccine to the poor nation, because otherwise the disease will come back. The world cannot feel free of COVID unless the entire world is free of COVID. And 60 to 70% of the world is poor nation, only 20-30% are the developed nation. So it's in the interest of the developed nation that they take the vaccine, but they also give funding and the vaccine for the poor country. And fortunately, there is a consortium where these vaccine manufacturers are to sign a treaty that they will part with a large sum of their vaccine at an affordable cost to this consortium, and this consortium will then be able to give this vaccine free of charge at a reduced cost, etc., to the developing nation. So I am sure every person who wants the vaccine will ultimately get the vaccine, and there will be a lot of equity, whether you are rich or poor nation, or whether you are rich or a poor person in this world, that if you want the vaccine, you will get the vaccine. There is one vaccine available and we are not using that vaccine. And I'm surprised that people are wanting the vaccine without using a vaccine which is available, which is this miracle vaccine that is available with us. We know COVID virus spreads through droplet, large particle which travel up to a meter and they die off on the surface. If you keep physical distancing of 1 to 2 meters, the virus will not be able to travel. We also know that the virus can transmit through aerosol. Now, the aerosol can go for meters and meters. That's why you need masks to be worn by both the person who are in contact with one another, even when you keep physical distancing. And last but not the least is that it can be transmitted by fomites. So you need to sanitize the fomites. So you sanitize your clinic, you sanitize your hand, you sanitize your gloves, and so on and so forth. So this SMS, social distancing, I like physical distancing because you should meet socially but not physically. Mask, including face shield for people like pediatrician where the children cry on your face, or if you are in an area where there is aerosol generation like a nebulizer or a ventilator, you should wear a face mask or face shield along with a mask, and sanitization of surfaces and of your hand. These are a long way which have prevented disease going out of hand in our day-to-day life, and will continue to play a role even when the vaccines come, because you never know how long the vaccines will work. And last but not the least, as I always say, when you have nothing to look at to help you and you are so helpless, look at him. He's there. He's the benefactor. He's the destroyer. He's the creator. He's everything. He's one of us. He's part of us. He's within us. We are part of him. Submit yourself to him and he will not fail you. He will, whether it is Christ, whether it is Mahavir, whether it is Krishna, whether it is Muhammad, Paigambar, or whosoever faith you believe, have faith in him and he will definitely see us through these difficult times. I thank you very much for your patient hearing. And if there are any questions, I can take it along with the moderator. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Joy, sir, can I just raise some of my, just to stir up the discussion?
Definitely, you can.
Can I make some points?
You are the moderator. You are the moderator.
Okay, sir, fine. Sir, it was a very interesting talk by Dr. NITIN SHAH, sir. For a disease like COVID, which is truly a pandemic running into 76 million cases and 1.69 million deaths, yes. It is truly only one way. I'll be looking at this from a public perspective because you covered the other part very well. So I'll be looking at the epidemiological part as well as the public part of the vaccine. So
yes,
if you want to control a disease, there are three ways of doing it. One is by controlling the reservoir. For COVID, we do not know the reservoir. So basically you cannot. Second is interrupting the transmission. As Sir said, SMS is the best way. There is no other way other than to do that. But whenever you see history of diseases controlled in mankind, there has been one thing that is so important: vaccination. There is no doubt about that. Current situation, as Sir said, I'll be trying to tell you how do you evaluate a vaccine, because you have too many vaccines in front of you. How do you epidemiologically evaluate a vaccine? Few points will be helpful when you are going to read some journal articles on this. First one, we look at vaccine efficiency. There is no doubt about that. But please remember to look at vaccine efficiency from phase 3 trials, which looks at effectiveness of the vaccine in huge number of people. Because phase 1 and 2, especially phase 1 looks at safety, 2 looks at efficacy, I agree. But look at phase 3. Only 2 vaccines have come out with it in reputed international peer-reviewed journals. As Sir said, in Pfizer vaccine, and the second one is Oxford Serum Institute of India. Both are available to you. You can go read them. Regarding the Pfizer vaccine,
sorry to interrupt you.
As Sir said,
Dr. Vinny, just to add one more thing. When you read it, look at the efficacy. Look at the efficacy against severe disease. From public health point of view, it is important that no one gets hospitalized and no one dies. I don't care if I develop mild cough, cold and fever, even if I've taken vaccine, but I don't want to get hospitalized. And that's where all the vaccines which are licensed are 100% efficacious.
Okay, sir. I'm coming to that, sir. The second one is, you look at the efficacy of 95, as sir said, fine. That means what was the primary endpoint of the study? Look at the primary endpoint of Pfizer vaccine. It was a symptomatic COVID. That means they are not really concerned with the asymptomatic. As sir said, nobody is going to die of asymptomatic COVID. But there is a catch here. If you have an asymptomatic COVID, it can definitely part of transmission chain. You cannot break the transmission chain if you cannot prevent it. But first phase, you look at mortality. Second phase, look at breaking the transmission chain. Looking that perspective, Pfizer vaccine as well as the Oxford vaccine has good efficacy to prevent break of transmission up to an extent. Regarding the Oxford vaccine, I think only one part just hit me was the elder people were not recruited in the first part of phase 3 trial. They were recruited only late towards August. That means the complete results of the elder people above 55 is not currently available as per what has been published. But whereas Pfizer, it gives equal protection against almost every age group, especially the elder one. So I have a suspicion regarding Oxford, but in phase 2, as sir mentioned, older age groups are also getting good efficacy. Maybe by February, we'll get the results of the elder age groups also. Third question is, what will be the duration of protection? We cannot say that for right now because vaccines have been produced and follow-up is being done only for a very short time. Fourth one will be, will it protect all ages, especially older age groups? I think I explained that properly. The next point is where the trials conducted properly. If it is published in a peer-reviewed international journal, you can be very sure the trials has been conducted properly, otherwise it wouldn't get published. So you have a very clear publication on Oxford, but regarding Oxford, again, it had multiple protocol variations from the original protocol, which is there in clinical trials, whereas Pfizer, no protocol variations. Next one, can it be extrapolated to all populations? I like to one point that NITIN SHAH said, until and unless a vaccine is tested in India, I don't think that's going to be used here. Most of the vaccines, that is the Moderna vaccine or the Pfizer vaccine, has not been tested, but the other one, the Oxford, is now being tested. Other one, which is also coming in, that's one with Bharat Biotech, it's also being started to be tested. So I hope it can be extrapolated to the Indian conditions also. Sometimes some vaccines may show different efficacy. One more point to be noted here is when the trial...
And also the Sputnik vaccines, sir. So 3 vaccines are under phase 3 trials.
I agree, sir.
Oxford and Bharat Biotech.
Agree, sir. As sir said, the 2 things that we can put our eye on is definitely one is no doubt the Oxford vaccine. Second one is the Sputnik, which will be done with Dr. Reddy's lab. Next point is, do they have adverse events? Sir's completely clarified to a very good extent. Next point, which I already mentioned, will it prevent asymptomatic infection? That is published only for the Oxford vaccine. It really doesn't prevent asymptomatic infection. The efficacy is around 30%. Or in other words, asymptomatic infections are likely to continue even with Oxford. But remember, no serious disease, no real symptomatic disease with both these vaccines. Maybe with some more trials, it'll come out to be good. Storage issues clearly mentioned, but my brother is a veterinarian. He was telling me if the government really wants the Pfizer vaccine to come in, it can be done through the veterinary storage depots where they have the storage areas in each state. They have some of them. But as I said, to take it to India at -90 will take a mammoth effort. Last but not the least, effectiveness in real world. Only 2 has been published. That too are interim results from the phase 3. Remember, none of these have completed the phase 3 trial. It takes more time for the phase 3 to complete, most probably by June 2021, some of them by December 2021, and sometimes beyond. But to wait for that much of a time, we'll be losing a day. We can believe in the preliminary results that has been published in phase 3, and let's hope that all these things will come up. Now, what are my concerns or long-term things? One, long-term efficacy data will come only in June. Second issue that I liked when I was reading about the vaccines is that most of these vaccines are compared with a group of placebo, right? But when finally now, phase 3 is continuing, some of them are getting the vaccine and all these international articles are telling, go take the vaccine. It'll be very difficult to manage a placebo group once these vaccines with good efficacy is there. So that could be a problem. I just read an article from Bharat Biotech citing that they find it very difficult to get people recruited into their trial because they believe already some vaccines are there. These are some of the issues that could be a problem. Last but not the least, a lot of people ask me in community medicine, once we have a vaccine, can we get away with the mask? That's a $1 million question. The answer, as far as I'm concerned, is no. Only one mathematical modeling result was there. That was in JAMA, which clearly tells you if you want to get rid of all these, it is not right now possible. You will require a high coverage range, high efficacious vaccine. So up to that point of time, you cannot get away from the first vaccine. NITIN SHAH said, we will have to continue with those. Final, new strains appearing, more studies are required. As of now, nothing to worry about because vaccines will cover a lot of these areas. But if it continues to mutate with such rigorous intensity or a major mutation comes in, we will have to maybe think about changing the strains maybe once in 2 years or so. As I said, this is the only answer right now we have is a vaccine. Let's not go with the anti-vaccine lobby. These are some for the scientific community. I just mentioned a few areas which are epidemiologically and relevant to public health. But let's see, most probably, maybe in 1 to 2 months, as far as I can understand, the list of healthcare workers has been forwarded by the UNDP to the government of India. Hopefully, the health workers will get it first. Other frontline workers, police, ASHA workers, Anganwadi workers, they'll get it second. And third, as I said, above 50 will get. The first one will be like based on an Aadhaar card basis. That's what I understand from UNDP. You will have to go to a pre-designated vaccination center, show your identity card, get it on the specified date. And after that, it may be like an opt-in or an opt-out. So once again, congrats, sir, Joy, sir, for getting an award to THRISSUR IMA, both as well as in the state as well as in the center. And thank you, NITIN SHAH, sir, for a wonderful session. Now the session should be open to questions.
Yeah, I just want to add one part that, I have been also speaking to the manufacturers from India who are ready with the doses, especially Serum Institute. They're saying that while the vaccine will be given through public health to a large number of people, there's no doubt. But I think the choice should be also given to the people to take the vaccine if they want to by buying. So some part of the vaccine which is ready should be also available through open market. I mean, you imagine if suppose tomorrow there is restriction that no, the first will only doctors will get, then the second only the police, then the third only ASHA, then the fourth only above 50. And in the 6 months are passed, and in the 6 months, there's a young adult who could afford and he dies of the disease. He will feel cheated that the vaccine was available, but because of reasons, I couldn't get it, I could have afforded it. So I think there is a need to have both public-private partnership, that you give the vaccine to public health, free or otherwise, but you also keep a front open for those who want to take it and those who are affording. Because I think it's ethically not correct to withhold a life-saving measure available in your country by having restrictions, because the number of doses available are plenty.
I completely agree with you, sir. If the available doses is, let's say, a good number, like 30 million or whatever.
So I think they are ready with 50 million doses. That's 5 crore. And as I understand, the national requirement for the frontline workers, including doctors and others, is around 2.9 crores. So
correct, sir.
You're still having more than
2.1.
Yeah. So you're having a lot of surplus, which I'm sure probably the government will allow in the open market. The only worry is that there'll be mad rush in the private and black marketing, profiteering, all that. But all that can be controlled, I think. But it's the right of a citizen to get a vaccine if he wants it, which is affordable, which is available in India and is restricted. And if he dies of it, I think that will be a not correct attitude from humanity point of view. That's my fervent personal belief.
So what do you think is the probability of Moderna vaccine coming to
both these vaccines will have
at least it can be stored at -20.
That's right. But both of them will have to conduct a local trial as per the DCGI. And for them to conduct a trial, at least I know Pfizer. The Pfizer will conduct a trial through their own original CRO, that is a clinical research organization. They don't employ a local CRO. So if their CRO has to do it, it'll be huge amount of money and lot of efforts. And that trial itself will take few months, if not a year. And they are busy because people are queuing up to get their vaccine and they have limited supplies. So I don't think so as a company, they will be really doing that simultaneously. Though they have actually applied for emergency use based on their international data to the DCGI. In the meeting that happened a few weeks back, 4 of the vaccine manufacturers applied for it. So the Oxford vaccine was asked to furnish data on phase 2-3 as on date, because they had furnished data which was till older, like November. So they are not given. And I think the real reason for Oxford vaccine still not given use in India is because UK has not given it. UK has purchased 10 million doses of Pfizer vaccine. If they have 2 vaccines, there'll be a lot of confusion which to use. So they want to finish off those. And I have a feeling by Christmas, UK will license Oxford vaccine. Moment that happens, another 1 week, India will license. The second vaccine was Sputnik. So they've been asked to submit data of phase 2-3. Pfizer applied but never went. They sought more time to appear. And there was one more vaccine, which is an mRNA vaccine made from a small company in Pune. They've been given license to start phase 1-2 trial. So, I really am telling you that the Moderna and Pfizer vaccine are not coming to India, at least for next 6 months to 1 year. Is that my personal belief? Looking at this scenario, we will have to rely on Oxford, Sputnik, and our own Covaxin from Bharat Biotech. One of these three or all three probably will bail us out.
But with Covaxin, the phase 3 trials are only going on.
That's right. So whenever that happens,
but they have applied for emergency authorization.
Yeah. So they have applied, but they probably will not get, because there has to be some efficacy data. My real bet is on the Oxford vaccine, because that is efficacy data internationally published, 100% effective against severe disease, 2 to 8 degree temperature, 50 million doses ready. What more you are waiting for? Every day, and cost is, they have promised the cost will be less than the cost of testing, which means less than 1,000 rupees in open market.
True.
For the public market, they are talking of $1 and $2 per dose. And cost is the least of the problem. The problem is licensing or emergency use authorization as soon as possible. Because every day, there are more people getting infected and more people dying in India.
Now, I think the session should be opened. Anybody who wants to ask a question, please unmute yourself and ask the question. It's based on public. I'll also try. Otherwise, sir will answer the questions.
So there are some questions in the chat box, if you want to take them.
Yeah, one of the questions I read was regarding pediatric vaccination. As far as we can understand, there are no trials, correct,
so,
sir? So one question.
All the Western manufacturers, including Oxford, Moderna, Pfizer, has less than 2% of the COVID is in less than 18 years. And there is hardly any mortality, even in those who get infected as a child. The focus was not children, though all the agencies which have given huge grants, like $1 billion by BARDA and others, they have asked necessarily that there will be a built-in phase 3 trial in at least 5,000 children. That is a promise taken from manufacturer for getting the money. They will do it. They are underway, and I'm sure in another 6 months we will know. But I think our priority is the other group. When the vaccine is freely available, we will see whether children should get it or not.
Sir, the data from Kerala also shows the same thing. That is, yes, children are not getting serious infections at all. They're not really transmitting.
Yeah.
So I don't think that will be a priority.
That's right. So our experience in Mumbai shows that those who had severe disease, and probably some of them died, were either chronic renal failure patient, oncology patient, severe diabetic babies, etc. So those were immune compromised and stem cell transplant recipients, etc. Otherwise, in a normal child, is mostly asymptomatic if at all it happens. And many times, as you are doing the COVID test in children who are getting admitted for whatever reason before admission, it's compulsory in most of the hospital, and you find someone is positive, he says, I don't have any symptom, and you do antibody after some time, it's strongly positive. Those are the completely asymptomatic children. So they really don't need vaccine to start with. To end with, yes.
Sir, can I have a question, please?
Yes, please.
Is there any subset analysis regarding the efficacy of this vaccine in immunocompromised people, patients who are post-transplant?
No. So immune-compromised subjects were excluded from all the trials.
Now, what happens?
They were only healthy adults or adults with comorbidity, but not immune-compromised. So we don't have data on immune-compromised hosts.
So diabetic CKD patients?
They were there. They were comorbidities. Their efficacy for Pfizer is given as subset, saying that the efficacy in overall cohort in those with diabetes, those with comorbidities, those with hypertension, and those who were elderly was the same, 95%.
Okay,
Oxford vaccine doesn't give that detail about different subsets.
Okay, but still, Oxford vaccine is protective against serious disease.
Absolutely, 100%.
Thank you, sir.
I have put this question in the chat box. What about the sustainability of protection in long run? Effective protection about this vaccine. So what is the projection?
All right. So it's a viral vaccine, right? So unless a virus, which is an exception, which is the flu virus, which really mutates every year, you need a new vaccine every year. But all other viruses, you look yellow fever, measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, hepatitis A, or any other such viruses, polio viruses for which we have vaccine, none of them mutate so much that you need to keep on giving vaccine again and again. And for all these viral vaccine, 1 or 2 doses have seen a lifelong protection. Like you give 3 doses of IPV, injectable polio vaccine, or oral polio vaccine, which is live vaccine, or IPV, which is killed vaccine, and child is protected 100%. You look at 2 doses of MMR, 2 doses chickenpox, lifelong protection. You take one yellow fever vaccine, you have at least 10 years and beyond, and now they say revaccination is not required. So the point, and same for hepatitis A, 2 doses, lifelong protection. My gut feeling is that this virus, unless it really mutates so much that it escapes the antibody, either natural antibody or vaccinated antibody, because it's mounting a T cell response and it's a virus, probably there'll be lifelong immunity.
My point was sustainability level of the antibody.
That's what I'm saying. So once I say lifelong protection, which means whether either the antibodies are sustained or even if they have disappeared, there'll be a massive anamnestic response moment you come in contact with the virus again. And this is not like meningococcus where you need antibodies all the time ready because you can die in 24 hours. The incubation period is 2 to 5 days. So by the 3rd or 4th day, you will have enough antibody to either make you not go into symptomatic or maybe a mildly symptomatic infection and not a severe disease. So probably it would be lifelong protection is my gut feeling.
I completely agree with you, sir. Maybe we can wait for a few more months so that we will get 6 months data so that we can get robust data to why am I saying is because if you see, we are into 1 year into pandemic. Now, people who got it very early, there has been no real large data to say that they've got reinfected, which means natural antibodies could protect them. Vaccines, as I showed you, produce 2 to 4-fold higher neutralizing antibody and T cell response. So why would you think that the vaccine will not work? I had an interesting question in the chat box. Because June 1st, so the colleges and schools are opening. So the suggestion was, why not we vaccinate the school-going children and the college mates? We have answered the question.
No, what I would suggest, Dr. Binu, is that the teachers who may be obese, who may be having comorbidity, who may be elderly, should be vaccinated if you are reopening the school, because children are not going to have trouble. They will only infect one another even faster and they will be asymptomatic. But they will infect this peon or a teacher and that person may go into serious problem. So if you are going to reopen the school, I think it will be priority to vaccinate the elderly staff in the school, including teachers and support staff.
Sir, in one of the discussions in Kerala, where I was also a part of, another part was regarding the grandparents. When the school reopens, the risk of these people who are reverse quarantined right now also will increase because they are actually caring for these kids. Kids don't get any problem, but the elders, as you said, teachers as well as the grandparents, could be trouble. Once you get the vaccine, only they can be safe.
Yeah. So if you could somehow say in a small country, take all the people above those 60 and put them in one area and allow the rest of the country to work as before, nothing will happen, and vaccinate all these people. That's theoretically possible. Practically, it will solve the problem. Same thing you're doing by vaccinating people who are at risk from children rather than vaccinating children themselves.
Do you think that COVID vaccination can be integrated into the current UIP system? And what is your expectation or guideline about the current COVID booth, vaccination booth? What should be the equipments like, logistics?
So as far as UIP is concerned, it's only for children. And as I said, children, there's not even data, there's no licensing. So that will happen whenever the vaccine is licensed for them, we will see. It can be incorporated, but I think more than the UIP, it will be mass vaccination program. So there'll be a drive like how we did Pulse Polio, we did Pulse MR campaign. We'll have to do Pulse COVID for adults and children both. Adults should start with children if they follow later and see that you maximally reach more and more population and break the transmission. And as far as the booths are concerned, we already have 2 to 8 degree health posts in most of the part of the country. And that's how we have achieved 80-85% coverage for, say, measles vaccine, MR vaccine, etc. We can use the same booths to now immunize adults. And also, government is on record to say that they are going to take part of not only doctors, but nurses, dentists, pharmacists, and any other who can be trained to give an injection so that you can, in a very short time, reach a lot of people. The problem will be availability of syringes, needles, spirit, swab, etc. More that, and of course fridges, rather than the vaccine. Vaccine is ready.
Any more questions in the chat box?
Someone talked about medical students. So I think medical students, if they start attending the wards, they will be taken as frontline workers because they are exposed to the patient. So they will get the vaccine as a priority.
All the medical students, nursing, dental, all are on the plan for as frontline workers.
Absolutely, absolutely. So they will not be the first among the frontline. Frontline will be the actual doctor working in the hospital. The second will be nurses, etc. And then will come the students, police, fire people, sewage workers, etc. and public health workers.
I think, sir, this vaccination program will be a real test to our UIP logistics system. So they handled a particular level of number of vaccines, but to vaccinate 1 billion people through that system will require serious upgradation, both in cold chain management, logistics management, administration. But I think this will be an acid test for our system.
Yeah,
but if he succeeds in this, no other pandemic will not be an issue.
So, but I only say that most of the people of the country, they have access to some healthcare. You would only enrich that healthcare to deliver vaccine and have enough people to vaccinate there. Now, I don't mind opening my clinic every day in the morning for 3 hours, vaccinate 100 people every day, and I will do it free. You fix up the charge, I will do it for that charge. You give me 10 rupees, you don't give 1 rupee, you do what you want. I will do it as a human service for the next 3 months. If like 1 lakh IMA members and so many other dental associations, everything join hand, it's possible to reach a lot of people in the next 6 months.
Sir, may I ask one question, sir?
Yes, sir, please.
I'm Dr. Purushothaman. Just, I have been listening to a very informative talk, and just one point in the context of the mutation which is happening, and we are also, there's not much of concern for these mutations, especially we are worried only when the mutation is happening in this spike protein, but that also is unlikely to cause much of a problem. Maybe in the coming years, there can be a significant mutation, especially in the spike protein. In that situation, most of our vaccines are against the spike protein. Let it be the vector vaccines, let it be the mRNA vaccine, let it be the protein Novavax, whatever it's except the killed vaccines of the China and our Bharat Biotech. And the live attenuated, which is very, very unlikely to come in the near future. All the kill vaccine contains all the antigens. And the limitation of these killed vaccines, it will be giving only a temporary thing. Cell-mediated immunity is unlikely, except for the Bharat Biotech. Bharat Biotech is likely to give the lasting cell-mediated plus humoral both. We are not sure about the China vaccine, Sinopharm, Sinovac and all, whether that also will afford the lasting cell-mediated. We don't know what about the kill vaccine from the China. But Bharat Biotech is very likely they have intelligently framed in such a way that both humoral and cell-mediated, they are ensured. So my suggestion is that when all vaccines are entirely based on a spike or a limited antigen only, when there is a mutation very significant, maybe coming in the future after a few months, it may be totally failing and the killed vaccine will be one. So why not think like that also?
Correct. So you may be right theoretically, but practically we know the only protective antibodies are anti-spike antibody. While a natural infection and a whole kill vaccine will induce a lot of antibody against other antigens, we don't know whether those antibodies can enhance disease, as it happened with the dengue vaccine. So I would be very happy to use the limited antigen-based antigen-based vaccines and wait if a mutation happens. See, remember, suppose Bharat Biotech is making a wholesale kill vaccine. It is using one virus seed which was there before the mutation happened. So that virus seed vaccine will not have that mutation and will not produce antibody against that mutated antigen. So the problem will remain the same for whether it's wholesale kill vaccine or a spike protein. So you will have to incorporate the new virus mutation into your vaccine manufacturing. It will be a tough task, but I'm sure the manufacturer will respond to it. But why worry about it? Worry about using what is there. I mean, I saw a very nice cartoon which says that February, March, everyone saying, what do you want? What do you want? We want vaccine. We want vaccine. In June, they're asking, what do you want? What do you want? No, we want vaccine. When it is coming? Now say December, what do you want? The vaccine has come. Oh, how has it come so early? How can we rely on that? I think that is the type of human nature we have, that we want something that we don't have. Once it comes, we start doubting it. Let's not start doubting it. Use it. If it does not work, it's not poison, no? It will not work. So how it matters? But it might work in some, it might work in large, it might work in many one. So why not give the vaccine? I mean, you waited for it, the manufacturer responded, and now you start doubting the manufacturer that they're all doing for profits. I think it's a complete crap and rubbish.
I think so. Within 6 months, if they could come out with these products, even if there is a mutation, they will be ready to come out with the next dose with whatever mutation that has happened. Because
Absolutely.
I couldn't believe that a vaccine could be out with such kind of an efficacy within 6 months to 8 months. That's a maximum. Once the genomic structure was out, it only took 8 months. That means even if there is, sir, as Purushottam sir very clearly said, that could be a problem. But I think these people now with the whole world cooperation, even with Gavi or let us say even between the governments, we'll be able to handle it, I suppose.
Yeah.
But an interesting question that came in the chat box was regarding whether we should give COVID vaccines to those who are recovered from COVID. That I think should be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, to my take is that there are several diseases where you may recover and you may get a second infection. For COVID, we don't know that. It has still not happened. So it will be the last priority, if at all, if you're giving. They will not be the first one who should receive vaccine, because there are people who haven't got it and who need the vaccine much more before than you. Why am I saying is because the vaccine induces a very specific and a robust antibody response, which is 2 to 4-fold higher than a natural infection. So how much you need to protect you for short term, long term, we don't know all that. So I think that will be the last priority, to give the vaccine to those who are infected. But if someone who is infected and wants to take it, absolutely there's no harm.
Maybe this will come as an opt-in rather than an opt-out. Those who want the vaccine can buy it.
Absolutely.
Those who had a COVID infection.
Absolutely. Like suppose someone is 40 years today, okay, and not in Kerala, but say in Bombay, and he wants to take hepatitis A vaccine. Now he might be already infected. I tell him, you do a anti-HIV IgG. If you're positive, you don't need the vaccine. He says, I don't want to have the hassle of all that. What if I take the vaccine? Anything wrong? I said, no, nothing wrong. You take the vaccine. Your live hepatitis is a single dose in any case. One prick here, one prick there, cost is safe. He takes the vaccine. He might be already infected. He'll be boosted. If he was not infected, he'll be protected. That's the end of the story. So I think the same principle will apply for this vaccine. Those who are infected, they want to take it. They opt to take it. Just give it.
I think that was the same statement given by a honorable health minister when he was asked this question: should COVID positives should take the vaccine? He said, even if you take a vaccine, we believe that the immunity will be boosted. Absolutely. For the others, it will be new, but for them, it will be boosted.
Correct. Perfect. Over to you, Dr. Joy.
Thank you, Dr. NITIN Shah and Dr. Binu, for your excellent talk and discussion. Any more questions anybody wants to ask? If not, we'll go to the closing session. Nobody? Okay. Then I invite Dr.
Just 1 second, sir. Okay. Just to make a final point, it was a pleasure moderating your session, NITIN Shah. Yours was a wonderful session. And regarding the IMA THRISSUR, I never expected such kind of a healthy discussion from a group like IMA. But this is a hot topic. But so many participants, so good, beautiful ideas. So I understand why THRISSUR IMA got a prize for being the best IMA in Kerala.
I even saw some doctors. I even saw some doctors from Kottayam who are probably.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir, for that wonderful session. And just one comment about the private marketing. It may be difficult because last week only this National Technical Expert Committee came with guidelines, and AEFI part need to be more important, post-marketing surveillance and the AEFI part. Maybe it will be a bit difficult if the vaccine comes in the private market in the first few months. Maybe that's the reason. Otherwise, definitely, I agree. It should be coming. There should be competition in the market. That should be there. But AEFI implementation may be a bit difficult.
So I have one counter question to Dr. Purushottam. You think you as a pediatrician enabled by the public health to give vaccine to people, that's okay, but you give as a private practitioner is not okay. You are the same doctor. You are going to report AEFI, whether you are going to report or no, to public health or private health. I think it's easier for them to take this opportunity to integrate private and public into reporting AEFI. How many public hospitals are reporting AEFI? I want to ask that question. No one. So it's a good way to integrate both the system and reporting AFI, make it very simple, a simple form which you can submit online. And I'm sure the private practitioner will come. I again reiterate that according to me, if someone who is affording the vaccine, he's not falling into the priority category and he dies of COVID, I think it's not acceptable just because of restriction of not available when he wants it. And I think that is my fervent belief that in democracy, everyone should have
agree
right.
with that, sir, because the present system of the AFI, there are a lot of failures. We are not at all up to the mark in the AFI system. And when you are introducing a new vaccine, we should be so vigilant. That's the reason why maybe.
So my take is that now when I call you, I hear the 20-second message about COVID, whether I like it or no. Let there be a message after vaccination started that have you taken the vaccine? If you have any side effect, please report it to XYZ website and give the detail of the website. Every time you call up someone now, you should hear that message. So ultimately people, one who has taken and has side effect, he will report it, na? Even if the doctor doesn't report. There are ways and means of doing it. What I'm trying to say is there has to be a balance between public-private partnership. All right, Dr. Joy.
Yeah. So it's getting too late also, 9:40, it's almost. Now I invite, thank you, Dr. Shah, for your excellent talk and obliging for my call and
no problem.
Giving your valuable time,
No problem.
Also, I express my sincere thanks to Dr. Binu Arakil also for his valuable time. He is in the COVID front line. And now I invite Dr. Arun Krishna, Indian Society of Anesthesiologists, THRISSUR City Branch Secretary, for vote of thanks. Over to you, Dr. Arun.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Respected IMA President Dr. Joy Manila and respected ISA President Dr. NITIN and CGP IMA THRISSUR Chairman Dr. Leelama Abraham and Dr. Pavan, Secretary, and Dr. Sharmula, Convener IMA CGP, and my dear friends. It's my privilege to propose the vote of thanks today. I would like to thank the respected faculty, Dr. NITIN Shah and Dr. Binu Arakil, for taking their valuable time from their hectic schedule to be with us today and giving us an enlightening talk. I would like to thank Dr. Leelama Abraham, IMA CGP Chairman, and Dr. Sharmila, Convener IMA CGP, to associate with ISA THRISSUR, and we would love to associate with you in future also. And now I thank Dr. Joy Manila, IMA President, and Dr. Pavan, IMA Secretary, for giving us an opportunity to associate with, with IMA THRISSUR. And I thank the Anesthesia TV, Rahul Chobe, who was telecasting this to all the anesthesia channels and ortho channels and dermatology channels. And this was going live all over the world. And I thank all the audience from, we had audience from all over the world and from Indonesia and UAE also. And I thank all the audience for attending today's meeting and making this CME a grand success. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you once more.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, Dr. NITIN Shah and Dr. Binu.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you. Nice meeting you, Dr. Binu. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Nice meeting.
All the participants, all the, my dear friends and colleagues. Now the meeting is closed for dinner at home.
Dr. NITIN Shah, I heard your talk in the FoodCon, and I was the person who suggested your name.
Oh my. Okay, so nice of you. Thank you. Thank you.
I told you.
But I'm sure this was a completely new talk has come to FEPCON.